Now, when we're talking about swimming technique, and I'm meaning specifically freestyle here, one of the most commonly reported problems is with breathing. How many of you are out of breath after simply 100 meters, or perhaps less, or maybe even you're fine initially, and then you just find it building up with time until you find yourself really struggling? Well, trust me here, you're certainly not alone, and today I'm going to be explaining why it's happening and how to fix it. Now, if you are someone that struggles with feeling out of breath while swimming, well, you needn't be ashamed. As I've mentioned already, you are definitely not alone. And this is partly due to our natural built-in instinct to want to breathe constantly. However, swimming makes us break this habit and breathe differently, which brings us on to my first point and probably the most common cause of this breathlessness. Well, our response to not being able to breathe as and when we like is to take a big lungful of air while swimming, holding on to it, and then just as we're about to take our next breath is trying to exhale that air as quickly as we possibly can. Now imagine trying to do that whilst we're cycling along or running along. In fact, just try doing that while sat down doing absolutely nothing. It's weird and it's incredibly unpleasant. Now, the issue here is that your body uses the oxygen you've inhaled and creates carbon dioxide, CO2, as a waste product. As CO2 builds up within you, your body senses it and tells your brain that you need to breathe. So getting rid of the CO2 helps to relieve this breathlessness. So swimmers who don't exhale properly will quickly feel out of breath because of this reflex, even though they probably aren't really suffering from oxygen debt. And another knock-on effect of holding your breath is that it creates tension in your upper body and limits your range of motion, quite often leading to a short and snappy style of stroke. And then to add to that, by holding your breath, having more air in your lungs, it can create and increase your buoyancy in your chest. And you think of that seesaw effect that we quite often talk about. By having more buoyancy in your chest, so your chest lifts up, your legs drop down, you could end up with your legs dragging along the bottom of the pool. So we need to break this instinct to hold our breath. So rather than taking a huge lungful of air, try taking a normal breath, as you would when cycling or running, and as soon as your face goes back down into the water, start exhaling gently and continuously, ideally through your nose, before then turning to take another breath. The perfect timing is to fully exhale just as you're turning your head to take the next breath. This takes time and practice, and personally, I gently exhale throughout with a little burst at the end to get rid of anything left. Well, this leads me nicely on to our next problem, and that is how often we breathe. By now, you've likely heard of bilateral breathing, simply meaning breathing to either side. And the idea of this is to create some balance and symmetry to our stroke. Unfortunately, though, this creates more issues, particularly for those that are already struggling with breathing and feeling breathlessness while swimming, because suddenly you're asking yourself to breathe every 3 strokes, or perhaps if you're being really ambitious, every 5 strokes. I'm going to be totally honest here. I rarely breathe every 3 strokes. In fact, I normally breathe every 2 strokes, as do many top elite swimmers and triathletes. Now, to be clear, I fully condone bilateral breathing, but I just worry it is misunderstood slightly at times. Now, as I mentioned already, bilateral breathing is the ability to breathe to either side, but it is not limited to simply breathing every 3 or every 5 continuously. You could breathe every 2 to one side for half a length, then breathe every 3, switch to the other side, and breathe every 2 to the other side for the other half of a length. That is still technically bilateral breathing. It's simply having that ability to switch from one to the other confidently and happily. And as you are trying to nail your breathing pattern and technique, why not make life easier for yourself? Breathe every 2, get comfortable with that. Just make sure you practice breathing to each side so you really do work on that balance and that symmetry. And with time, as you get more comfortable, why not build up to breathing every 3 and trying that out? It's kind of funny, really, that many of the things that we do to try and get more breath in are actually the causes of us feeling breathless. Another one of those is the movement of our head. As we try to get more breath in, our tendency is to move our head right round so that we're looking up at the ceiling of the pool or to the sky, or maybe really lifting our head up out of the water. Obviously, this is just excessive movement, it's a waste of energy, and it's inefficient. And if we are really lifting our head up out of the water, it can make our legs drop down, so we're dragging them along the bottom of the pool. Again, a waste of energy, so it's best avoided. And finally, if you are really struggling with your breathing in the water, then you can work on some simple breathing exercises. This mostly just works on building up your confidence of exhaling underwater. For this, you want to take a normal breath, curl yourself up into a ball so that you float on the surface. Currently, you're floating because your lungs are full of air, but now start trickling your breath out through your mouth or nose. Gradually, you'll start to feel yourself sinking. Keep trickling until you've fully exhaled and touch the floor of the pool. Push back up and then try again. Well, personally, I love that last exercise and still do it to this day. I think it's great fun, but hey, maybe I just need to get out more. Well, I hope you have enjoyed today's video. If so, please do give it a like. Don't forget to get involved in the comments section down below. Post us any questions and we'll do our best to get back to you. Don't forget to give GTN a follow over on social media and give us a subscribe just down below.